Hi, my name is Hannah Goldberg, and I am a rising senior studying public health and psychology. This summer, I interned with the nonprofit organization known as BelleReveNola. In 1992, there were three individuals who began to express concerns in regards to the quality of life and the availability of services for those who are HIV positive in the New Orleans area. In March of 1993, BelleReve opened its doors as the first assisted living facility of its kind. The mission of BelleReve is to provide housing, food, and a variety of supportive services for people with disabilities, including HIV/AIDS. BelleReve generally serves the homeless population of New Orleans, the majority of which includes minorities of low socioeconomic status who also identify as a part of the LGBTQ community. BelleReve works hard to advocate for the rights of the LGBTQ community, and they strive to raise awareness about treatment disparities and ultimately to decrease the stigma that follows those who identify as a part of the LGBTQ community. This is essential to the mission of BelleReve because minorities who are HIV positive are finding it increasingly more difficult to be accepted into any type of treatment facility. During my experience at BelleReve, my supervisor expressed to me that prior to entering the facility, the majority of the residents were particularly uneducated about the prognosis and the transmission of HIV. And I learned that one of the most important things to emphasize is that when HIV is treated properly, it will ultimately become undetectable, and when it is undetectable, it is no longer transmissible. And this is really important to emphasize to the residents because it can keep them from getting into that hopeless mindset since they are continuing to be discriminated against. So BelleReve has taken on the responsibility of raising awareness about treatment disparities for those in minority groups who are HIV positive, and to combat these disparities through cultural competence and determination. BelleReve is currently housing 12 residents, all of whom are African American. Because of this, BelleReve continues to face an organizational behavior due to the fact that the majority of the staff is Caucasian. However, what really impressed me about BelleReve is that despite the racial and ethnic differences among the residents and the staff, BelleReve employees are trained to cater to the needs of this specific group of individuals, which not only increases patient satisfaction, but ultimately has proven to lead to adherence and better health outcomes. Homeless individuals who are HIV positive have significantly less resources to maintain treatment, and therefore, the goal of BelleReve is to be able to provide them with these resources. The supportive services offered at BelleReve include a variety of things such as medication adherence counseling, weekly computer class, life skills training programs, substance abuse programs, and psychosocial support programs. All of these supportive services are ultimately intended to assist the residents in successfully developing the necessary tools and skill sets in order to live independently and obtain a high quality of life. Among the variety of supportive services offered at BelleReve, one of the most important services would be HIV/AIDS education, as well as medication adherence guidelines. This is important, especially for the population that BelleReve serves, because many minority groups with low socioeconomic status lack the general knowledge and understanding to treat themselves successfully and to maintain good health. This can be attributed to a variety of things, but generally it is attributed to a lack of insurance coverage, which, as we have learned about in our readings and discussed in our discussion posts, will inevitably lead to disparities in the understanding of treatment options, as well as disparities in understanding the importance of medication adherence and other resources such as preventative care. Another supportive service that I think is very important would be the life skills training program, which focuses on helping the residents develop the skills necessary in order to lead an independent and high quality life. This is done through emphasizing the importance of education, helping the residents enroll in classes, hopefully even getting their GED, but basically just doing anything that they can to give them the best chance to thrive in the workplace. Another way that BelleReve addresses a social determinant of health would be nutrition, because they offer cooking classes, they provide 3 meals a day, they teach you healthy eating and things like that. So basically, to sum it up, BelleReve NOLA was created with the intent to provide a safe and welcoming environment for those who otherwise may be discriminated against, as well as to provide treatment even when the individual does not have the financial means to pay for the treatment. So that's basically what I'm going to say about the organization itself, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about my responsibilities as an intern. So, since the opening of BelleReve in 1993, they have been receiving funding, federal funding, through the government, through grants through the government. So, as some of you may have read in a couple of my discussion posts, when I began interning at BelleReve, they were experiencing crazy budget cuts and they had a lack of funding like they had never had before. And my supervisor told me that they were struggling, but I had no idea how much they were actually struggling, and I don't even think that she knew herself. So the first week, I was working to plan their annual fundraiser, which was going to happen in September. So basically, I was gathering donors for the silent auction. So I was looking at their previous fundraisers, and I pretty much got all the information and put it into an Excel spreadsheet so that they could easily contact potential donors. And then my second week at BelleReve, my supervisor told me that the grant that they had was going to expire within the week and that it was not going to be renewed, so BelleReve was going to be closing its doors. So this is not at all what I had expected when I started my internship, and the staff quickly began scrambling to find a solution to the problem because there were 12 residents that needed housing and they still needed treatment and they still needed help. So this was really hard to watch because I had developed relationships with some of these residents. I sat in on support groups, and so I knew a lot about what they were going through. And one of the greatest concerns that my supervisor expressed to me about the closing of BelleReve would be the discrimination that the residents would likely face in another facility like a nursing home. So that was a scary thought, and she was explaining how ageism is such a prominent issue that just isn't getting enough attention, likely because it has to do with older individuals who are part of a vulnerable population and they can't always advocate for themselves, so they don't always get the justice that they deserve, especially because the injustices that are happening to them are done by people who they should be able to trust. So the goal of BelleReve is to provide a safe environment for these older individuals who are in minority groups because they would likely face great discrimination and prejudice elsewhere. So obviously, the staff at BelleReve was incredibly disappointed that their grant was not renewed and that they did not have enough funding to stay open, but they did not give up. They worked tirelessly to come up with a solution to the problem, and basically they had me helping them research potential solutions, other facilities, housing for these residents. They reassured these residents that they were not going to leave them on the streets. They were going to make sure that they were accommodated for. And so first we looked up this, we started researching this program called PACE, which is Programs of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. Researched that. Long story short, BelleReve didn't fit the qualifications. And so we researched an adult daycare. And the whole thing just taught me to be really flexible. It taught me to always be ready to change my mindset, to reformat my thinking, to just start over with a clean slate. And it was just really inspiring to watch them not give up and to see how hard that they worked for these people. So their primary concern was to put the residents above themselves, which is just great to see. And they put all their energy into preventing them from being forced into homelessness again. They constantly reassured them that they were working tirelessly to provide them with housing and supportive services elsewhere, which they were. And they also began working immediately to prepare the residents to successfully adapt to this huge change in such a short period of time. And so I really did have a newfound respect for individuals who work with organizations similar to that of BelleReve because their mission is so important, and I too share their passion for um, advocating and protecting minority groups from treatment disparities. And it's just so unfortunate that nonprofit organizations such as BelleReve are doing such important work without being recognized and getting the funding that they need. But there are other organizations out there who are helping, and hopefully people can do more. And I hope that everyone else had a great experience. So thank you for listening.